Hi everybody, this is the Baseball Head, the amazing, spectacular, terrific, the great one, the People's Champion, your host, and welcome back to Baseball Head. I hope you like this video. Hit that subscribe button. I was going to do a live stream tonight, but I just got too tired, and I'm just going to do this video for you. Obviously, with 6 games left in the season, Mets have one of the biggest series they've had in a long time in Atlanta. They have the Braves right where they want them. All the Mets have to do is at least win one game in Atlanta. It's going to be a tall task because of the history, but this team is a little bit different than the other teams of the past. And I would mention, do not put your own past being disappointed onto this ball club. They have nothing to do with 1998, last year, 2 years ago, or any other year. So just go into it, just saying, look, Mets got a chance with a 2-game lead against the Braves, and I'm going to monitor these games very, very closely. I'm going to watch every at-bat, every pitch. And if I notice anything a little bit strange, like, signs being passed along, I will let you know. Not a lot gets past me when it comes to watching these games. So here's from SI.com, and this is about Pete Alonso and his impending free agency. Obviously, he's done in the regular season as an everyday player with the Mets, possibly. I've sort of gone back and forth on whether he's going to be here. I think he wants to be here. Will the Mets give him what he's looking for? That's another story. And there are options out there. One, I think, is a very good option. And it's mentioned. It's funny, I mentioned it about a month ago, and then the media mentions it in an article, and they all give him credit. But I mentioned this player about a month ago, and it's been mentioned, been basically parroted everywhere else. This surging slugger could harm Mets Pete Alonso's free agency value. Another National League first baseman could be burdensome for Pete Alonso's free agency leverage this offseason. Now let's see what this quick article, it's just a summation of another article. Much has already been made about New York Mets slugger Pete Alonso becoming an unrestricted free agent this offseason. While the 29-year-old first baseman hasn't produced up to his lofty standards this season, his 34 homers and 805 OPS in 24, the lowest out of any season in his career. Aside from the pandemic-shortened 2020 campaign, he's still an elite power hitter who still likely has a lot of middle-of-the-lineup production ahead of him. I would mention he's played really good defense over the last 3 or 4 weeks of this season. He's made a lot of great plays to his right side, which is his throwing side, it's not his glove side, that have been excellent. He made a really good play against Kyle Schwarber on Friday the 13th in Philadelphia, and on this past Sunday night, he made a good play late in the game, diving to his right. So he's actually played really good defense. Now, the standard for Pete is much higher than any other player because of the fact that his numbers are Hall of Fame numbers. Up until this year, he was the number 1 home run hitter in Major League Baseball until Horseface passed him this year. And as you know, Horseface is Aaron Judge of the New York Yankees. He just passed him up in the past few weeks. But in other words, Alonso's going to get paid this offseason. But a September 22nd article from Bob Nightingale of USA Today suggests that another NL first baseman's breakout season could diminish Alonso's value in the open market. While Pete Alonso of the Mets will be the highest paid first baseman in the free agent market, club executives insist that Diamondbacks first baseman Christian Walker would draw much more interest at perhaps half the price, Nightingale wrote. The Brewers are one of the several teams that have interest if first baseman Rhys Hoskins opts out of his contract. Be interesting where he goes. Walker's a 33-year-old first baseman, who has produced a .252 batting average with an .811 OPS and 26 homers this season. He signed a 1-year deal for $10.9 million with the Diamondbacks this past offseason after producing 33 homers and an .830 OPS in 2023. Given that Walker's 4 years older than Alonso and hasn't been quite as consistent as the polar bear across his career, it makes sense while he'll be available at a lower cost. Yet there's no question that Walker is still an above-average first baseman who will be sought after in free agency. Walker being available this winter could harm Alonso's leverage since there's another cheaper option at the same position. That said, Alonso's still going to get a lot of money. It will be the Mets who give it to him. Now, here's the difference between this. They don't mention this in the article. Walker's hurt. He's missed really the last 6 weeks because he had an oblique issue. So his season is done. But he was having a better year than Pete. When he got hurt, he had about 33 homers and 26 homers and 71 RBIs. So he was going to finish way over 100 RBIs. So he was having a really big year in his walk year. Unfortunately, he got hurt. And he's a great defensive first baseman. For a right-handed throwing first baseman, he's actually very, very good. So that's a little bit different kind of player. And that's kind of what I've said, that's more in line to what David Stearns wants. He wants guys that play good defense. Because defense obviously prevents runs from scoring, and Walker is a superior defensive first baseman in comparison to Pete. But Pete has the sort of, but I would say this about Pete Alonso. Pete has a connection with us as fans, and his value with the Mets is higher than it would be if he went to another team. If he goes to another team, his value will not be nearly as high. They won't value him like us Met fans value Pete. Now, there is a very small minority that completely hate this player, completely hate him, which makes zero sense to your host. Okay, he seems like a good kid. He's a bit of a doofus, but he's a very good kid. And from what I can tell, he never gets into any kind of trouble, but the media hates him here with a passion. WFAN hates him with a passion. There's a small part of the fan base that complains all the time, saying that he's Dave Kingman incarnate. Dave Kingman never did what Pete Alonso has done in his 6 years in his career. Dave Kingman was not an everyday player for the first 6 years of his career. He was bouncing around from team to team to team. And a lot of times he was an outfielder. But a lot of people online smear him with that. I mean, it's a smear. And it's a lot of it's Met fans that are old enough to remember Dave Kingman, that when the Mets got Keith Hernandez, they all thought that Keith Hernandez was the prototype for first baseman. A guy that doesn't hit for power, is a great defensive player, who's a leader. Ever since Keith Hernandez retired, every first baseman's compared to Keith, and that's very unfair. Dave Magnan was compared, and that was unfair to him. John Oler was compared to him. Todd Zeile was compared to him. Carlos Delgado. Pete's just another one that's constantly compared to Keith. And that's really what it is. It's all about smearing him, saying, well, he's not Keith. Not everybody's Keith Hernandez. And just wanted to mention that. But Pete is going to get a big contract. Where he goes, I've sort of gone back and forth saying that I don't think he's coming back, but I think he wants to come back. I don't think he wants to go anywhere else. He just wants the money that he thinks he's earned. It'll be interesting to see how he plays the next 6 days. His numbers have been okay. They're baseline numbers for him. But he's not had a good year and a half, really 2 years really, in terms of his numbers. He had a lot of home runs last year, had a lot of RBIs. It doesn't look like he's going to finish with 100 RBIs this year. But a lot's going to depend on where the Mets go if they get the postseason. If they get the postseason, he has a big postseason. It'll tamp down some of the hatred. And that's what I see is complete total hatred. I also would mention this as well. When I started this channel, I was talking a lot about Pete Alonso was a better player than Dom Smith. And these people are the same people that want Dom Smith as the Mets first baseman for the last 4 years. They were totally wrong. And the people that like Pete and love Pete were right. That's also another consideration. They're very, very bitter about that. Because Dom was more in line, again, with Keith Hernandez as a player than Pete is. So that's kind of where that comes from. But I believe, again, I have to repeat myself, but I believe Pete wants to be here. It's all a matter of the Mets and Pete coming to some kind of term. But he's going to talk to a lot of teams. There's going to be a lot of teams on him. The Mariners, the Padres, the Yankees possibly. Also mention this. Keep Pete as insurance in case you don't get Juan Soto. Because if the Mets let Pete go and they don't get Juan Soto, WFAN is going to be screaming. A lot of fans that just want to complain are going to say Mets are going to Mets. They blew it, and they didn't blow it this year with the lack of flashy, splashy signings that they didn't do last offseason. This year is a little bit different. They're going to be throwing a lot of money around for some of these players. That's a different story. Well, you let me know what you think about this video. We got 6 more games to go. I want to thank you for coming by. I appreciate the time you take to watch. And, of course, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you later.